Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today we're going to be talking about me making an oopsie. If you didn't know already, I made a video, which you see on screen right here, titled How I Make the Block Wars Teams 2024 Full Showcase, where I explain and showcase the entire process of team making, from signups to the final teams and everything in between. And one thing that I did in this video was try to make sure I didn't leak anything. And I know I did one leak. I edited it out for those of you who watched, I think around like this mark at like the 40 something minute. If you're still watching that point, you're the absolute goat. I edited something out that I know I leaked, but something slipped through the cracks, and we're gonna be looking at that right now. I'm gonna cover this because it's funny and I guess should be mentioned because I guess it gives some insight on Minecraft event stuff as well, because this also relates to MCC, I think. So here we go. Someone pointed out, or at least they said, I hyper-analyzed the Mogul video and found leaks. Won't be surprised if this gets deleted. Leaks being one leak. I'll unclick the spoiler now. If you look on this is the stat sheet where I blocked out all the stats in order, and at the bottom, you'll see Preston. Preston hasn't ever been announced to be in a Block Wars before. Last time I checked, there was no sign of Preston being in a Block Wars. But why is he on the sheet? Well, let me explain, fellas. He was supposed to play. I actually talked about this in a comment here. He isn't in the roster anymore, but he was supposed to play in an earlier Block Wars event around Block Wars 6 or Block Wars 7. One of the main things I think people mentioned here, is a Caman and Preston duo. I'm fairly sure Cam wasn't a player, or like barely was a player when Preston... No, because Cam joined in Block Wars 4. So he was barely a player at the time. Preston joined through Radoons, so very interesting insight. And he was, intended to play around Block Wars 6, Block Wars 7, but he wasn't available for the event we specifically invited him for. We then didn't really end up following up with Preston or with Red on Preston, and that kind of meant that, like, he just kind of, like, was left behind. Not that I think Preston really cares that much. He's got a very great career already in YouTube. I don't think he is fiending for some Minecraft event gameplay. Hell, he could sign up for MCC if he wanted to, but clearly he doesn't. He's not interested, or maybe he just forgets. I don't know. But we also didn't really have any planned teams for him to play in. So one day, randomly, Preston just left the Discord. No mention, no drama, nothing, just probably lost interest or forgot what Block Wars was and just left the Discord server, which is totally fine, of course. However, it is interesting to showcase that if people are previously mentioned to potentially play in an event, it doesn't mean that they'll actually end up playing at a later point in time. There's other people in Block Wars history that have been on the list of potential players, whether they've been announced or not. I don't actually remember what the name is below Preston. Possibly somebody who's not been publicly announced, but I don't know. But there's people like G Nelly and Captain Puffy and Koji, I think, as well, who have all been announced as potential players, or at least announced on a team before, but haven't yet played because they got subbed out. G and Puffy, I would be surprised if they played at some point. Koji, I could see play at some point. We'll just need to find out where we can fit him in and when we could fit him in. But yeah, there are people in the roster that are not yet announced, or people in the roster that were announced and may never play again, which is an interesting bit of insight on how things work. And that leads into MCC, because for those of you who don't know, there is a long-standing document, I think. I don't have it open right now. A long-standing document for the MCC waitlist, where some people kept track of mentions of people joining MCC and whatnot. And from that document, people speculated who would be the next addition to MCC. And I know some people that have been mentioned that I think never ended up joining is Poke, who I think was supposed to play like super early on, like probably like MCC 2 or something along those lines, like super early, but never actually ended up playing. I don't remember the exact details behind it, as if I remember correctly, it was something about like one of the first MCCs could be potentially a team with Poke, and I think Sneeg maybe was involved at the time too. So it could have been like Dave's team or whatever, or Kara's team, whatever the team was that was the purple team that won. I'm pretty sure would have been something along those lines, right? But Poke never really played again, and I don't really think Poke is also someone who is fiending for some, Minecraft event gameplay. Obviously, he played in Block Wars, and I'm pretty sure he had a good time because his team did really good. And he was also supposed to play in Rookies, I think, previously. So he is open to playing in events, but he'll not seek out playing in events. And also, something that you should probably think about in terms of people like Poke is obviously the content that they became popular for was like, I think, like, I don't remember what the SMP was called. SMP Live, the SMP Live type stuff. And I know some of the SMP Live aren't the biggest fans of, like, the popular Minecraft scene, which I think is mainly just the Dream SMP, like, old audience type of vibe. But yeah, I don't think Poke will ever play in an MCC is kind of what I'm trying to get to. Even though he wasn't ever publicly announced, but he was, like, mentioned as a potential player. Another person I think should be talked about regarding MCC is Ethan Nestor, or Crank Gameplays, who actually did play in an MCC, but then was talking about wanting to play a regular event, and then was announced to be in a regular event, I think like MCC early 20s, I think, or something like that. And then he was announced, showed up, had internet issues, subbed out, and then never showed up again, which is totally okay, of course, but it is really funny to see like how things can change like that, and how things work regarding people, being interested at one point and not being interested later, etc., etc., etc. There's also people who, and I'm just gonna keep rambling because this is on my mind, people who initially decline or initially are meh about an event and then later suddenly want to join, which is very normal because an event will grow and expand. One person who I can remember, which I thought was a really funny situation, and this, this is not a negative thing at all, it's just funny to me. One person who falls under that rule is Hannah. Hannah is now a Block Wars player, of course, really likes the event. But I actually remember messaging Hannah for the first Block Wars, the first like creator Block Wars split event, and I think she was like half interested, but like only under certain conditions, which is fine, of course. So she didn't end up playing. And then when it came down to her being interested in the event, and I think she started talking about it, she mentioned like, "Oh, I never got asked." I just think she forgot, which is completely okay. But she did get asked. She just didn't really care about playing, which is totally fine, of course. But I thought it was pretty funny that like we have like a full circle moment here, because I think Fruit also got asked for Block Wars like before the split, and he was like either not available or not interested, and then obviously he joined Block Wars and liked it. There's plenty of other examples of people who initially played Block Wars and then later on liked it, or initially played Block Wars and now they don't want to play because they have this pre-established concept of Block Wars that it is sweaty, even though if you look at modern Block Wars, it is so not a problem in terms of balancing. I think in terms of sweatiness, it's so much more chill. But I guess it depends per person, because I know at least in terms of MCC players, there will be some people that obviously care a lot about MCC and have played a lot of MCC, so they have a lot of experience, and that makes them really good at the event. And also it's more of a friend environment, to the point where other events are less appealing because that friend factor is taken out of consideration, and they'll probably be a little bit less good at the other events because obviously, if I play Block Wars and Block Wars Origins every single time and then I play PB, I'm not doing as good as I do in Block Wars as I do in PB. So, kind of a similar situation where like these people play in other events, do a little bit worse, and then they're like, you know what? I'm content with just playing MCC and I don't care about other events. Anyways, that's enough to yap about for today's topic. I accidentally leaked Preston, who was at some point in the roster. He's currently not on the roster. If he is interested in playing, obviously we'll be able to work things out potentially, or at least we're looking, or we would be willing to look into it. But as of right now, no plans for a Preston team. So don't get your hopes up too high, fellas, okay? It's at some point it was going to happen, but I think with the way modern Block Wars works, it might not make that much sense, but I guess we're not against it. I'd be willing to try it out. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Hope you understand a little bit more about my crypto stuff. And haha, I made a mistake. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.